There are a number of ways to manage Xero subscriptions in Xero Practice Manager, and none of them perfect. In this video, I'll take you through what we think is the best approach and also discuss some things to help you make a decision about how you'd like to approach it. There are three ways of managing subscriptions in Xero Practice Manager. You can ignore the subscriptions, or you can load a job cost for each month of the year, or load a single job cost for the whole year. The thing we need to keep in mind is when we invoice our clients for these Xero subscriptions, we create negative WIP entries in Xero Practice Manager. We don't want to create miscellaneous entries, so we want to capture these entries against the job where we manage the Xero subscriptions for the client. This is done by entering the job number into the reference field in the Xero invoice. Because we're creating these negative WIP entries from the invoicing, we need to create the corresponding disbursement to recognize the billable WIP. Otherwise, the $900 or so you've invoiced for the Xero subscriptions will incorrectly be recognized as revenue against your team members' time. For this reason, we don't want to choose the first option, which is to ignore the subscriptions. The next option is to load a job cost for each month of the year. When you do this, each disbursement date should be separated out by month, which means the WIP will be recognized in the same month as the invoice. The best way to do this is to import a CSV once per year with all the Xero subscription fees. This is actually a great solution, but does have a big downside. The downside is how fragile the process is. The Xero Practice Manager import service doesn't allow you to check your import before confirming. This means you can end up importing some items successfully while others fail. If this happens, it's very time consuming to separate out the failed imports from the successful ones. And if you just re-import again, you'll create duplicates. If you're dealing with a lot of jobs, this process can turn into a nightmare. Despite this being the best approach from a WIP perspective, it's best to steer away from it due to the likelihood of things going wrong. This leaves us with the last approach: load a single job cost for the year. This approach doesn't treat WIP as well as the previous approach, but it does avoid potentially creating a mess at scale, which is why it's the preferred option. There are two ways to approach loading a single cost on the job. You can manually add it to the job once per year, or you can import it via a CSV. Importing a CSV in this instance isn't as dangerous as the previous method because we're not dealing with such a high volume of data. So if things go wrong, it's a lot easier to fix up. Let's add a cost to a job to see what this looks like. In the job, click into the Cost tab, then search for the cost in the database, and hit Save. Easy as that. Now let's look at how to do a CSV import. This CSV has all the fields you need for the import, and we have one line for each job. The date needs to be in a specific format, so select the date column, then in the cell format choose More Number Formats, then Date, and choose the date format that looks like this, with 4 numbers for the year. Xero Practice Manager will only accept 500 lines per import, so you may need to break these out into multiple sheets. You can then save your CSV. In Xero Practice Manager, go to Business, Settings, Import, Generic Cost, comma separated, Next. You can leave Update Existing unchecked, then choose File and Import. You should see a success message, or if there are failures, look into the error message and make the necessary changes. Just be careful that if you do get a partial success, don't just fix the error lines and import the same sheet again, or you'll create duplicates in the successful jobs. Note down the failed line and separate these out to another import. Before you move on, it's a good idea to check one of the jobs to ensure that everything came through correctly. There's no way to roll back an import, so it may be worth testing the import with 1 or 2 jobs before you do a batch of 500 items.